And well, maybe before that. Well, anyway, this guy comes to the house, and you're talking to your neighbor out front, and he's like, "Hi, I'm so and so from the Internal Revenue Service." Like, whoa, okay. So I say to my neighbor, "Oh, okay, you better go. I got to talk to this guy." So so he's looking at the license plates on the cars and stuff like that, and he says, I said, well, "How can I help you?" He says, like, "Well, I've come by to find out when you're going to file and pay." And I said, "Well, I've written to the IRS. Have you read anything I've written to the IRS?" He says, "No, I haven't. I haven't read anything that you've written to the IRS." I was like, "Okay, so you don't know what I've said to the IRS. So you're here looking at my cars." And I said, "Is this conversation being recorded?" He said, "No." I said, "So this conversation isn't even happening." I said, "So if you haven't read any of my letters, why are you here?" He says, "Well, listen, everybody has to pay their taxes." I said, "Really? Everybody has to pay their taxes? Can you tell me where in the tax code that says everybody has to pay their taxes? Because I don't know that in the tax code." And he says, "Well, maybe you know the tax code better than I do." I says, "So, okay." I said, "So why am I talking to you?" I said, "Well, you can leave." And he left. And I went inside. I jotted down all this experiences. Like, well, that was a weird conversation, but that's the way it goes. And so in that time, in New Hampshire, I'm just doing my thing, and we're writing letters to the IRS at the time, and now they took this $1,200 from my bank account, and then they ended up with a lien. I don't know what they're leaning on. We had no property, so they're leaning on a county in the county record or wherever that is, and it may still be there. I don't know how long those liens last. I should go investigate that. That's in Stratford County. Yeah, that'd be kind of fun. Because who wrongs you in a lien is actually the clerk, because they're not doing due process, and that's the law in New Hampshire. So, so anyway, so we told IRS, have a nice day, and so I became the state coordinator for We the People, which was back then that was moving up towards the Truth and Taxation hearing, and they were going to have a hearing in New Hampshire where they are asking, where's the law that requires most people to file and pay? And let me just say this. That question alone is, I think, what separates us from a lot of IRS groups. And listen, there's a number of people out there that are doing tax stuff. And all you do is have to ask them, do you believe the income tax is unconstitutional? If they say yes, they do not understand federal jurisdiction. They're not going to help you. And many of them are like up for fighting. We are not fighting with the IRS. We recognize that. I was going to tell you another time was the FBI contacted me, and they were calling about somebody else I knew. And this was somebody that I knew that was doing Tim Turner's stuff, which was acceptance for value, A for V stuff, where they do banking and whatever that is. And so this guy from the FBI says to me, "Well, don't you tell people that they don't have to file and pay income taxes?" I said, "Well, no." I said, "What I believe is all U.S. citizens, regardless of where they live, and resident aliens have an income tax liability and have to file and pay." That's what I teach. Okay, so if you're a U.S. citizen, you have an obligation to file and pay. And if you're a resident alien, yeah, you have to pay too. That's what the tax instructions say. That's what the tax code says. That's what I teach. He's like, "Really? I thought you didn't do that." I didn't get in with him about, well, which citizen are you talking about? State or federal citizen? Because the state citizens don't have the liability a federal citizen does. And the Constitution in Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17 has given them that exclusive legislative authority in that case and in that situation. So it's absolutely constitutional. I would repeal that section of the Constitution, if not the entire Constitution. How's it working for us these days? It's not working very well at all. So, so that's unfortunate.